Pagoda definitely has its own design. These were invented by Martin Baird. I may not be saying his name right. They're definitely an original design and original concept, and on some of the Pagoda 1 designs, you can actually see what's going on there. Just 3 discs with an array of, you know, circuitry in there. And it's not circuitry like that you solder anything to. All it does is radiate the video signal. Let's get some weights going just for good measure. We've got our authentic Triumph coming in at 13 grams. So here we've got our Pagoda, and that's coming in at 9 grams. Now, our Pagoda is considered by many to be kind of their go-to antenna. They have excellent penetration. They're super cheap. Even though, yeah, you can spend money on these if you really wanted to, you don't have to. You can make these. You can even buy kits that bring the price down to like $1 or $2 per kit if you buy them in enough quantity, and I don't mean like 1,000 units. And, you know, you can spend a couple dollars on a jig, which just helps you put them together so that you get all your measurements right, so that you have something to hold things while you're soldering.
Alright guys, obligatory statement about the test conditions. All tests performed at 200 milliwatts, all tests performed in a residential environment that I consider to be short to mid-range. Right here is just visual verification of the settings that I'm running on. And then we will hop right into the Pagoda versus the Triumph. So as we watch this, I want you to notice that, as is typical of the front yard tree loop, we really don't see much breakup or anything that should be inhibiting video performance here. Meaning that neither one of these comes out being a winner in this scenario. Close range, few obstructions. And then we head to the backyard. Now watching this, I don't think that either one of these stands out much over the other, but in my opinion, the Pagoda 2 has slightly better performance behind the home. And then we'll take our obligatory run down the street and around the hedges. We'll take just a minute here. I actually had to do a quick landing with the Pagoda to check something. Running down the street, we don't see much interference from either of these antennas, but we see it affect them at slightly different times, but I don't think that, again, either one stands out. And then we get to the hedges. And you can see that the Pagoda 2 is penetrating far better than the Triumph. We've seen that before. And then we head down the street, loop around the mailbox, and come on back, and we really don't see much difference in performance in this area either. So the major differences we're seeing between the Triumph and the Pagoda 2 is that the Pagoda 2 seems to penetrate thick brush better and seems to have slightly better handling around solid obstructions. But from a durability standpoint, the Triumph is still going to take the cake. Now, because I was seeing so many similarities in the performance between the Pagoda 2 and the Strix Hoot, I just couldn't help myself. I had to go ahead and send these guys head-to-head as well. So what we see in our front yard loop is that both of these perform very, very similarly, but I have to give this one to the Hoot, because even though it has just a little bit of breakup, as we typically see around the trees and whatnot, we see less of it and less intensity from the Hoot. And then we go behind the house. Now this is where I have to give it to the Pagoda 2. It seems to handle this scenario just a little bit better. Not a ton, just a little bit. It is what it is. We should give props where props are due. And then we take our run down the street. Personally, this is my favorite part of the test because flying around open fields just doesn't do much for me anymore. Flying around my neighborhood satisfies a lot of this, and so this is where I get to see the performance I'm interested in. Running down the street, I notice that the Pagoda 2 seems to handle the few obstructions we see a little better. And then we get to the hedge. Take a look here, guys. I don't know about you guys, but I have to say that the Hoot handles the penetration better. You might have to go back and watch that again for yourself. Feel free to, but I'm going to stick with that. Head down the street, turn around the mailbox, fly back, head for the driveway. We're not seeing anything different than we've seen with many of the other antennas. They all seem to perform just fine in this scenario. So what we're talking about are a couple things. Now let's talk about specifically the Wolf Whoop Pagoda 2, because I can get a pair of these for $15. Now, I'm not a person to go typically splitting pennies. Dollars, yes, but not pennies. And if I can get 2 Hoots for $20 versus 2 Pagodas for $15, and I know that the Hoots are going to take a far greater beating, in essence, saving me money over the long run, then I have to give this one to the Hoot based on cost and performance.